What's something you don't want to know? How much potential I have wasted in my life so far and where I would have been if I had realized my full potential. But you'll die one day and none of it will even matter. Might as well not regret the past and just have fun with what you have. These are my thoughts exactly. Just enjoy the moment. What being homeless is like. Homeless man here. It's not horrible if you have a job and a car to sleep in, but it's still not fun and can be pretty humiliating when people find out. Essentially, I wake up in my driver's seat, take my blankets off and drive to the GY Monsieur. There I shower, change my clothes, brush my teeth and shave, and then I go to work. I get off and go back to my car, maybe get some dinner from a restaurant, or if I'm saving money, just buy a can of soup and eat it cold. I charge my phone while watching YouTube for a while, then go to sleep. Repeat daily. On my days off I go to the laundromat and wash my clothes and towels. Wow, that's really interesting. If you don't mind me asking, how long have you been homeless? I work at the Morgan every now and then we receive some person with an absurd, weird, WTF, injury, set of injuries. Looking at the case report to have some clues about WTF happened, it became obvious it was some kind of perfectly avoidable accident, self-injury. What I don't want to know, how on earth those idiots had in mind while performing whatever. Get dead. Got any good stories, besides celebrities, who my wife has fantasied about during or masturbation? In fairness, you wouldn't want her to know the same. When in a relationship, knowing whether you will break up in the end or not is a horrible thing to know. Future knowledge is not the best thing in general. Hey, there's a Black Mirror episode about it. Hang the DJ, Season 4 Episode 4. That didn't stop her from getting boned left and right. Not really mine. Before I was born my brother fell into the Thames and drowned. He was only 3 at the time and the only witness was my sister, who was 2. Years later, in a drunken convo with my sister and parents, she hinted that she'd be interested in regressive hypnotherapy so they could finally know how it happened. All my mum said was, "What if you found out you pushed him?" I am not trying to be but this sounds like mom may have drunkenly slipped out a silently held suspicion. If you fall asleep and die in your sleep, what would be the last minute like? Let's find you. Oh my goodness, are you okay? How many murderers I've interacted with in my life unknowingly? Or how many deaths have you unknowingly caused? No, I want to know this. What my intestines taste like. Well, that makes one of us. The thoughts of the scary kid in my school that said he elderly people. What in the absolute? How many hackers have my social security number? What people really think about me? I'm sure they think you're pretty rad. Agreed. You, Science Nerd 12345 is pretty rad. You're apparently still conscious 5 seconds after your head is cut off. Dude, it would be awesome. Your brain would be flooded with adrenaline, so you would thing. When my parents are going to die, I love them so much, I don't want to be dreading a specific day. I think that being aware of the date would incentivize making the most of the time before it. I already dread knowing that it could be any day, so it's no different for me. Same here. I'm 12, so my parents are relatively young, but I'm an only child and we don't keep in contact with more than half the family. I have no interest in having kids whatsoever, so I'm slowly coming to terms with the fact that once they're gone, I'm alone. The time or cause of my death, I would rather it is a big surprise. A big surprise. What a positive view on death. My checking account balance, even though I should constantly check it. All the things I said or did when I was in the midst of my drinking career. You were getting paid for drinking. Here I've been doing it for free like some dumbass. All those times I didn't ask someone out thinking they weren't interested when they were. Might be good to know though, so you'll be more confident in the future that people like you. How many of your eyelashes are not eyelashes but an eyelash mimicking parasite? What? Lol. What it is like to be sexually attracted to kids? Just, nope, never once. As a straight male, I have wondered what it is like to be. Like the is a very unattractive thing. Like funny looking and silly, sure, yay, but wanting to put one in my mouth, I just, a man. But thinking about like that is fun. Being attracted to kids, no man. I've had this question in my head a while now. What if some suicides are because of realizing this in themselves? myself, what if someone is so disgusted and horrified they would do themselves in rather than become a sicko? It's a strange thought to have, but could there be cases like that? Let me just be clear before I say this. I absolutely am against pedophiles acting on their feelings, and believe that punishment for them should be harsh and decisive when they do. An amp, #X200B, but I've always felt bad for the monsieur. It's widely believed that they can't change their attraction. In that case, they absolutely have an innate attraction to kids which makes them incompatible with all societies. According to modern science, the consensus is that this type of attraction can't be eliminated. It would absolutely suck to live with this probable monsieur. I hope there's an actual humane treatment for this in the future, because right now there isn't. What happens when we die? There was a massive Reddit thread about this, people who have died and come back. Apparently you just see blackness, you feel, see, hear and know nothing, then it stops. Kinda like going to sleep when you're really tired. Just 1 minute you're here, the next you're not. This also makes sense from an amauristic scientific perspective. In the cases of lots of imagery, it's explainable by lots of neurons firing and is more akin to a dream, but parts of your brain are shutting down, and in the case of the blackness style, different bits of your brain are literally ceasing to function and connect. What gets me is the knowing nothing. It's so mind-boggling but also so plausible. As you die, if your consciousness bit stayed on longer than your knowledge bit, then you'd experience things but would literally not be able to know anything. And depending on if your emotion bit are still working, you might literally feel nothing either. That gives me the major chills. I'm afraid of what the future has to hold, in every regard. I remember my therapist once said something interesting. Imagine if life was a haunted house. You go in knowing you are going to get scared. You get scared, and you leave the haunted house knowing it fulfilled its purpose. It didn't help me, but it was a very interesting perspective on anxiety, how any of my internal organs feel like on my hand. Alternatively, where I'll die. If anyone has spat in my food, I try really hard to avoid places with seemingly disgruntled staff. I build rapport with people and am always as friendly and polite as possible. It's partly manners and decency, partly fear of food tampering. Peas. Food tampering is a crime in most of North America. PSs. I've worked in food management and I've only known of food tampering twice under my management. I have a zero-tolerance policy, and you have no place in my establishment if you don't respect food safety. What I weigh right now. Find out, and make the decision to change. If I'm real or not. Yeah, this one doesn't matter in the slightest to me. Real, not real. What is the difference? I have a consciousness that's real enough. Exactly same with free will. Feels like it to me, and nothing I can do about it if it doesn't exist. I don't know, and I don't want to know what I don't want to know. Whether the afterlife is real. If it is, suddenly life becomes terrifying, as ghosts, demons and other creatures would probably be real too. And if it's not, well, I'd be horrified by the very thought of death and GT. And if it's not, well, I'd be horrified by the very thought of death. I don't exactly practice what I preach, but if there is no afterlife, your fear will only last until you die. This sounds kinda morbid, but it's also kinda not. If there's no afterlife, the only worry you will ever feel is during life. Almost makes it seem like worrying isn't productive, logical, or meaningful, whether I am actually terrible or not. My family says I have issues, though I am only ever truly unhappy at home. Are my friends just faking their attitudes towards me? Am I a terrible person without realizing? I try not to be, but I never know if what I do helps. What a third-degree burn feels like. How many girls have actually liked me that I don't have a clue about? Exactly how I was conceived. Anal. How many hours I've wasted watching television. Why the toddlers have gone quiet. It's your makeup, or the new laptop. Whatever it is, it's expensive. And he just royally fucked it up. There is a song called Money City Maniacs by Sloan. There is a line that I swear sounds like, all covered in goat. I don't want to know what the real words are. How it feels to die. Whether or not the guy who are dead in front of my house made it or not. I had to call 911 and AMP. They took him away in ambulance. If he made it, great. But if he didn't, I'll always myself up for not checking out what was going on when I first noticed that something was wrong. There was a 2-year-old girl in the back seat of his car. I really don't want to know if that was the last time she saw her dad alive, what going to jail feels like, how much money I spent on alcohol at last night's hockey game, what Top thinks about me, if there are aliens out there or not. I think that eventually there will be a discovery and the question will be settled for all time. But for right now, nobody knows, and that's magical. When I'll die.